Yes, it's my real pleasure for us to have sponsored a keynote of Paul Tennant. So Paul Tennant, he's the Group Chief Executive of Orbit, and that's an organization with the purpose of building communities through the provision of a wide range of housing care and support services to 88,000 customers and the delivery of over 1,000 new homes annually, and investment in creating vibrant communities for people to live in. Orbit has a strong social vision and recognizes the need to focus on generating a profit for a purpose. This is something you're going to hear a bit from Paul, which is reinvested in its core mission. Orbit manages 38,000 homes and operates a federal partnership of property management providers, a property development company, capital treasury vehicle, and a transactional service organization. And Orbit recently completed its 2020 vision research and has established its direction and outcomes for the next 6 years as it responds to a new world. Paul is the past president of the Chartered Institute of Housing in the UK, and I'm really pleased just recently he was actually appointed as a board member on CIH Canada's board. He has been an amazing facilitator of our Founders Program. Paul actually kicks off our programs for the first 2 days talking about transformational change, leading these sessions on business transformation, culture, and leadership. He also speaks extensively on housing matters in the UK and abroad. And his particular interests include enhancing the quality and range of service provided by housing organizations, the transformation of businesses to respond to a new world, and promoting the values and the value of our work. He's a wonderful ambassador for the housing profession, and pleased to introduce Mr. Paul Tennant.
Morning. Excellent start. Brilliant. Not a sound in the room. It's just what you need. Great. Morning? Morning. You are awake. Splendid. Just firstly, on a personal basis, I'm really disappointed I'm not seeing Colin. I've known Colin for a number of years, and I stand before you as one of those aforementioned Arctic blondes. And I have to say that phrase made me feel so much better when he said it, because up until that point, I used to tell people these were highlights that I had put in specially, but now with Arctic Blonde, it makes you feel a whole lot better. I'm talking today about transformation. The reason we use the phrase transformation is because this is not about change or piecemeal change or small change. This is about organizations really demonstrating their ability to transform their vision and their future as organizations. It isn't about a method, it's about a mindset. It's a desire. Organizations' passion to change comes from within. It's about their desire to make sure they are relevant and effective to meet their community needs going forward. And I'll talk about the business, and I'll talk about how organizations need to change. But I'll go back to John's point. It's about people, it's about communities. That's why we need to do some of this stuff. What I'll pick up on are these areas. I'll cover a range of these areas in various ways. It is recognizing the changing landscape that we are working within. I'll give you a little bit of detail about Orbit just so you can see the context for my comments and the response that we've made in terms of the business model, but importantly, bringing in more of an entrepreneurial approach as an organization and to recognize we need to do things differently, learn new skill sets, develop different ideas. And what I've been particularly asked to talk about is scale. Organizations joining together to create scale. The benefits of scale, what organizations need to consider in terms of their options, their approach to scale, but also making sure they understand the issues which will come up, and there will be issues as organizations go down this route. And then a few messages and draw out some conclusions for you. In terms of the landscape, I think it's important to recognize that the UK, we don't have all the answers in any way, shape or form. We have lots of similar issues. Now, I recognize that in Canada, a lot of the organizations are small. In the UK, 91% of housing associations have less than 1,000 units. So please don't think that across the UK there are large organizations with huge amount of numbers. They're not. A lot of the sector in the UK is very similar to the sector in Canada and will have the same issues, the same challenges and the same future the need to address and to change. 4% of housing associations have more than 10,000 homes in the UK. So it's slightly different in terms of how we address some of our issues as larger organizations. But if you cast your eye down that list, there's a lot of similarity in the issues that we are facing. Customer need is increasing. we are quite clear in our minds. Inequality in our society, particularly in the UK, is going to increase. In tough times, poor people suffer. In the main, we house poor people. So therefore, we know the pressures on our customers are going to increase and get worse and get different, more complex needs, more problems to address, different demands on our staff to address these. Like was said earlier, we are seeing a withdrawal of government. And government is saying to us, funds could run out by 2018. 2040, we'd be delighted with. 2018 is where we're looking at. Because grant, as we see it, subsidy to support our housing build will start to diminish. And the view of government is, you don't need it, you're big organisations, you can do things for yourselves. In some cases, you're right. But remember, 91% of organisations don't have the skill we have, they don't have the resources we have, so they aren't in that position to do that. So government are not being straight with the sector, and the withdrawal of funds is morally corrupt. It's the wrong way of doing business. In terms of don't get me started on the view of the UK government, because I've recognised in the past we do have an international view, and some of the things I've said have gone back across the water. Not good. The other thing we do recognise is the need for new capital. Funding sources are becoming more difficult, and choices are more difficult. Organisations need to find new ways of digging out capital resources, because if the subsidy goes down, borrowings will go up. But organisations need to understand that puts challenges and significantly increases the risk to the organisations. But we're all facing exactly those issues. We need to maximise the use of our assets. We have large asset bases. We want to make best use of those. They are the vehicles that give us the funds for the future. We've got to make sure we make best use of those. If needs be, we'll trade them. But it is about making sure we invest in and protect those assets. What's come across, again from UK and Canada, is the investment in people. You can have the best systems, have the best structures, the best ways of doing things. If you don't have people who feel comfortable and confident in what they're doing, you will not be successful, period. It's much about having staff who are engaged and believe and are supported and enabled and empowered to do what they need to do. Again, it comes out very clear from all of our analysis that that is the game changer in how we move forward as organisations. Political impact, we both suffer an ability to get before the eye of government. An interesting point that I picked up. As an organisation, we're the third biggest housing association developer in the UK. So we build 1,000 homes a year. We'll double that production in the next 12 months. We'll be doing 2,000 homes a year. Governments still don't see us as being relevant to them. When we flip the message a different way, we are the 25th biggest house builder in the country, then they talk to us. Because we've got a different language, a different message. It's an economic case, not a housing association requiring funds to build houses. Actually, we're building a shed load of houses to the extent that we are the 25th biggest house builder. So part of it's about messaging to government. Make them see what you do, but think from their eyes, their perspective, and something that matters and relevant to them. But we're also seeing as an absolute necessity is to do partnership working. There is no point organisations thinking they can do this on their own. The demands, the challenges, the issues, Tony touched on those to a degree. They are huge and will be significant going forward. Partnership is absolutely critical to enable organisations to exist and to flourish, but importantly, to do what they do now and more. So we have got to embrace partnership working, not fear it. And part of that also is recognising the need to come together around scale, however that may be and how it's shaped going forward. But coming together to bring scale is going to help organisations deliver a significant difference in how they do things going forward. Some very brief numbers, and Lisa covered a lot of this. Orbit, 1967, a traditional housing association and not-for-profit. The name, which is not on the slide, the Orbit name was an accident. And we've never changed our name as an organisation throughout the history of Orbit. And it came about because two guys created the organisation. They were sitting on a park bench on the outskirts of Coventry, planning the organisation, could not think of a name. One of the daughters of one of the guys said, why not call it Orbit? Because the space race had just started. Hence the name of the organisation, and it stuck with us right throughout those years, and it stood us in good stead. 38,000 homes, 88,000 customers. The age range of our residents is 16 to 106. Mother and baby units right the way through to dementia care and support for older people, and every form of tenure and every form of service in between, whether that be mental health, drug recovery, alcohol recovery, a whole range of areas. So a very broad range of services. But it's also important to recognise that we are now going from homes to jobs. We no longer just do bricks and mortar. Our job is about enabling people to take part in society and have a good life. What we don't do is to build great homes for people to have crap lives in. That's not what it says on our mission statement as an organisation. If you don't believe me, you can check, but trust me, it doesn't say that. So the objective is to have great lives in great homes, in great communities. That's what we're about. But it's also about making sure we offer aspiration, not just need. So it is about rent and support and enable, but it's also if people want and are able to buy a home, we'll help them do that as well. It's about the people, not about us, not about certain types of tenures. It's helping people work through their requirements as they get older or their lives change. The turnover of the organisation is £221 million, and we have a £1.2 billion asset base. That's the strength of the organisation. And we made a £670 million profit last year. And I use the word profit deliberately. We are very clear that at times we have to use certain language, which 5 years ago we would never have used. But profit for a purpose has come out of the organisation and come out of the staff. The reason is we now also have people within our organisation who sell homes. So therefore their job is to make a profit. They sell because we run a cross-subsidised model as an organisation. We build and we sell. We use that profit as subsidy to build houses for people in need. You get a guy in who is used to building and selling houses and say to them, we're a not-for-profit organisation, it blows their minds. They can't, well, hang on a second, that's my job. I sell, I make a profit. Fine. But you've also got staff who say, but we care, we are a social organisation. So what we did was to lock 3 of them in a room. 3 from the commercial side, 3 from the social side, and said to them, you're not getting out until you come up with an answer. Profit for a purpose was the answer. And it works, because everyone in the organisation gets what it means. It's profit for a purpose, social purpose. It's about what the organisation believes in. But how we do it has got to be different. So again, it's that mindset shift for the organisation. 1,000 homes a year, and that's a scary number. We have got to generate £100 million of sales per year for the next 5 years as an organisation. That's a massive shift. But the reason we do that is to cross-subsidise the building of new houses. So very important to us. We also invest in our stock. The £52 million is about the asset side and also the community spend, and we run a federal structure. The trajectory of the organisation has worked about every 10 years. The reason I put this slide up was because if people are running small organisations, so are we in the mid-70s. It's about a vision. It's a direction. The organisation has grown through acquisition and merger by organisations coming together and the organic side of building more and more houses. And that's enabled us to progress as an organisation, to do these different step changes broadly every 10 years. And the business model we have, the federal structure, takes the allowance of people's individual ability and running separate businesses. It's not about everybody's in one organisation together. We don't need to do that. We have a property management, a development, the treasury, and the transactional services. And they're all structured in a way that everybody comes together as one orbit, as one organisation, as one strength, and everybody gains from the sheer scale and size of the organisation. But the real benefit of that is that we do local delivery with regional influence, with national scale. 3 levels. And they are so, so important. Because I want people locally to believe, this matters to me. These people work in my community. At a regional level or provincial, it's about people working together with other partners, health, social care, whoever. But at the national scale, we are big enough to borrow a lot of money and build a lot of houses. So the benefit of organisations coming together is absolutely critical. So the entrepreneurial approach was about identify opportunities, create conversations, get into different conversations with people. We developed a structure which has enabled us to make the organisation work going forward. And importantly, we've adapted our culture. Culture is the key element of transformation. It's about people embracing, understanding, and going with the new line of direction, the new world that we're in. And that vision that's created really binds people together and allows people within Orbit to really drive behind what we're trying to achieve. So moving on to the scale debate, why does scale matter? Why would you be bothered by drawing organizations together in some shape or form to give scale? Our experience is the offer you can make to customer is better. It's richer, it's broader, it's deeper. It's an important opportunity by organizations coming together. For community, it's a way of generating additional resources to go back into communities and support investment and services going into different areas for different reasons. The funding structure of Orbit has allowed us to aggregate our strength. We've brought a number of organizations together. We could have borrowed against the two small parts of the business, the 16,000 units. What we've actually done is to borrow against the 38. We get a much better deal. Next year, we'll be going to the bond market. We're going to look for another £250 million as a business, which will take our borrowings overall to £1.2 billion. What keeps chief execs awake at night? Borrowings of £1.2 billion, that's what. But that's the benefit of the aggregate. The organisation coming together is drawing together those funds, that strength, and borrow against the assets of the organisation. Management can be more efficient. You don't have people passing each other for different organisations working in the same areas. So it's very important to try and drive efficiency gains around the management service and how that can be used, particularly around technology. It was touched on earlier about technology. We see technology as a fundamental change agent to how organisations can and should change going forward. But scale enables you to invest in technology. Really, really important part of the organisation's future. With homes, you can build at scale. Organisations coming together can share build programs, get that development going, and that's what we do through the property company within the group. But it's also led us to do regeneration. Erith Park is a very large scheme in southeast London. It's 652 flats that we demolished, and we're putting back in houses. The reason we can do that is the sheer scale of the organisation. We weren't sure we were going to get the funding. We could carry the management risk and get on with the development of the programme, hoping we were going to get the funds. If not, we're going to find ways to do it. But it allowed us to get on and do things that if we were smaller or didn't have the same structure, we wouldn't. So organisations working together can actually stimulate and take risk to get schemes going, particularly around regeneration. Because one of the things I have heard, both in the UK and Canada, is the importance of regeneration and the paucity of funding going into regeneration. So really important that we find different ways of organisations working together to regenerate. Risk, organisations coming together can manage risk better. One of the biggest concerns I do have for the sector, and this is globally, is that we'll take on more and more risk, and if we make any mistakes, they could be lethal. So organisations really need to understand risk and how they manage risk going forward, because that new world is going to be really, really challenging. Coming together collectively does help spread the risk and protects organisations and shares knowledge. Innovation allows us to test ideas, and we've tested some really interesting ideas, particularly around tenancy support, enabling residents to be involved in what we do, how we do, the point around community engagement. Take some really different approaches, but we can do that because scale enables you to put some investment in, do some pilots, and if needs be, lose a little bit of money because it didn't quite work. But you test ideas, which is really important to organisation. It pushes boundaries. But the scale side, I think importantly for me, it's allowed us to invest in our people. The skills of our people are going to be critical to us going forward, and their quality, their professionalism, their capacity, their capability, and their culture will enable us to deliver what we need to in the future for the organisation. And by bringing people together, we've spread knowledge, we've shared best practice, we've enabled organisations to work in a much different way, and for people to rise through the ranks, because opportunity has also come as a result of organisations working together. And in terms of regulation itself, we have greater strength, we have greater support, we understand how to deal with the regulation, and we self-regulate as an organisation. My view has always been, find out your own mistakes before anybody else does. And that's the reason we self-regulate, because I'd rather know before the regulator tells me there's something we need to be aware of. So there are huge benefits of scale by working together in a different way, and all of this will help in that new world that we're facing. But I think in many cases people see scale as a one-trick pony. It is merger. Not necessarily. Merger can be for organisations coming together or a range of organisations coming together to create that collective, the single organisation. But I think it's important to recognise there are several options about organisations working together, different ways of doing that. But if you are going to go down this route, there's a range of things that are worth having a consideration of. Understand the issues, understand your issues. Why would you want to talk to people about partnership? Be very, very clear, because sometimes people have stumbled into partnerships and regret it. In many cases, it's not because the partnership wasn't correct. It's just they weren't clear what they wish to achieve. So understand the issues, understand what you wish to achieve. Identify partners, preferably the right ones. Because what you need to do is to make sure you're talking to the right people. Because sometimes organisations think they can talk to X, Y, and Z, and it doesn't work. So a little bit of forethought, analysis of the organisations, understand who you may wish to talk to, and then get into early conversations and see what the synergy is between the respective issues. Common cause is a really important area. It brings people together to stand behind an objective reason as to why you're doing things, not individual vested interests. That synergy makes such a difference. Understand also that there'll be new skills will be required, and they will have to evolve. The organisations will need to evolve going forward. It's not about jumping to something, because often if you try and go from A to Z too quick, it doesn't work. Make sure the steps are quite clear and that organisations evolve. Make sure there's a business case. Understand why and how and what success would look like if you do go down this route. Because organisations need to be able to demonstrate to their boards, their shareholders, to their customers why they've gone down this route. And as ever, culture is critical. These conversations, partnerships, often fall foul because the organisations haven't addressed the cultural fit between the organisations. That is so, so important. We've talked to several organisations over the years. Some we've gone ahead with, some we haven't. Invariably, the reason we haven't gone ahead is cultural. The organisations just can't work together. They don't have the same value proposition. They don't have the same principles. They don't have the same approach, which is bizarre, bearing in mind we work in the same sector. So never underestimate the differentiation between people's cultures. And one of the key things that we find when you are considering scale is people often live in the past. What the organisation has done, what it was about. That is fabulous. Celebrate it. Just don't live in the past. Because organisations got to exist in the future. So it's really about using your past as that legacy, that springboard, to change what you can do in the future. But you have got to see the vision. And once you start getting the idea of what the world could look like, what you could deliver for your customers, what difference you could make to your communities by working together, that's when it catches the imagination. And a lot of this is about capturing your imagination, the imagination of your staff, and importantly, the imagination of your customers, because then they can see what this world could look like. So if you are going down this process, who are you going to talk to? Importantly, why should they talk to you? We've had conversations in the past where it's meant absolute clarity. Oh, we know who we're going to talk to. And the people think, I'm not going to talk to you. We don't understand why you're doing this. It's not clear as to what your cause is. So again, make sure you understand who. How is it going to add value is absolutely critical. Know the benefits that you're going to get from this conversation, what difference it's really going to make. And fundamentally, this is about customer and community. It's about outcomes. It's very important this process makes a difference to the people that count. It's not about structures, it's not about organisations. What more could you do to really shape and change the investment in people and the communities that we exist to serve? What are the deal breakers? Get those out on the table early. Because if you are going to have deal breakers, there's no point leaving them till right to the end of the process because you've all wasted a huge amount of time. Don't need to do that. Understand what people will die in a ditch over early and get those out on the table. You also need to manage some unrealistic expectations. A small example. We were approached by a small organisation with 35 homes. We have got 38,000. What they said to us was, we'd like to be a subsidiary, an independent subsidiary in the group. So, well, with the best of intentions, with 35 homes, I cannot offer you that situation. I can't offer you a position on the board. I can't offer you the same structure as the large organisations within the group. You're more than welcome to join as part of the group and get the benefits from the organisation of doing that. But those people's expectations were way off beam in terms of what they thought we could offer them and how they wish to work with us. So it's really about trying to manage people's views and thoughts. Can we get a shared vision and a shared future? Organisations coming together do need, in many instances, to create a new vision, a new set of outcomes. Because again, that's what captures the imagination, captures the interest. And frankly, that's what will drive the new world. It's about organisations seeing what that new world might be and what you'd like to achieve and what you'd like to do in that new world as an organisation. I think also it's important to recognise that this process of management will be really hard. Getting there requires a very clear view of who and how. What type of process are you going to use? Who's going to be involved? Often, this has to be at board level, senior execs. And you have to resource some of these conversations because sometimes people are doing the day-to-day job and you suddenly want them to start doing something completely different and which might be actually quite time-consuming. It's going to fail. So if you're committed to making a partnership work, invest in it. Bring the resource in, support and enable people to actually make this work. I think the important point, or at the end, a leadership working group, a combination of boards, execs, and in some cases customers. Because what you want to draw together is that group that will find solutions, that will find ways around the barriers, and that will enable this thing to occur. Because if you're going to be knocked off the line by the first little issue, this ain't going to work. You need an element of determination to really drive these things through, but the success is quite clear at the end of all of this. So messages on skill. The world is changing. Anybody who thinks we're going to go back to the pre-2008 environment is wrong. Period. We are never going back to the pre-2008 situation. Get over the change and recognize the new world is here and move into it. Absolutely key. Challenges will be huge going forward. The environment's going to be really, really tough. But not just for us. Importantly, for our customers and for our communities and the places that we work. So it's really important, if nothing else, that we recognize the world is changing for them. And it's our job to change, to meet their needs and support their futures. Going alone, in many cases, will not be an option. But I think it's important to recognize that it's not just about big organizations, it's about effective organizations. It's about making sure that organizations can work together in different ways to bring together that whole part about scale. And recognize that partnership and collaborations will have many forms. And you can investigate and create your own. Again, all I'm trying to suggest is there is value in giving thought to this and creating that type of conversation going forward. A mature conversation focused on the future recognizes an adult-to-adult conversation. This is reality. One of the questions I often ask in these type of events is, what's more important to you? Your outcomes or your ego? When you ask a group of chief executives in the UK, when you ask them that question, it goes down like a lead balloon. Because I know the answer. That's why. But it's very important to challenge people, to make them think in a slightly different way. And it's not about them. It's not their organization. They're working for other people, and the people who pay the rent pay our way. So it's important for organizations to recognize what we do for them, not for ourselves. So those challenges, those questions are really important. Celebrate your legacy, don't live in the past. And innovation is absolutely critical. It's key to our future. But the phrase that I love to use in that slide, form follows function. Decide what you want to do, decide what you wish to achieve, and then structure your form to make it happen. Don't start with the form, because you really will curtail the function you can achieve as organizations. What did we get from scale? Hopefully doing more, we're doing better, having more impact. Critical. What I don't want is an organization that doesn't make a difference to people's lives. We have got to have impact. I demand impact from the organization. It's one of the objectives we have. It's really important we do actively change and engage with communities. We do have partnership work, and we understand how to work in part with partners, both internal and external, with private businesses, as well as with other housing organizations. Our language and our messaging has completely changed. We have a very clear view of our offer. We can much more clearly describe the offer we can make as an organization, what we'll try to achieve working with people. It's given us better access to funds. It's changed our culture. Bringing new people in has made our culture richer and different and deeper. It's not an organization trying to hold back. One of the things that I'm really pleased with, we don't have inertia. Staff get the fact is change is a constant. If you didn't want change, you've picked the wrong sector. Because it's the one thing we can absolutely guarantee going forward is change. And what we've really got to do is to have the ability to handle that and adapt to it effectively. We have better governance, we have new board members, we pay our board members, we've been able to invest in them and also invest in the leadership of the organisation. And we've transformed, we've become more commercial, but with a small c. We're not a large house builder, we're not a large retail company. We still have the right vision, the right values, the right purpose. But how we do business has changed. And I actually think that's been really, really important to the scale we've now got and the things we can do as an organisation. Without doing that, we wouldn't be having the impact, we wouldn't be doing the things we are now. And we are better equipped for the new world. But I think couple of last slides here. Put this in context. One of the tasks I also do is I'm the chair of the International Housing Partnership and Shane's the vice chair. What we're seeing across the world is that scale is an issue in several countries. The agendas are similar across those countries. We need to share and learn across those countries, and everybody has something to offer to help improve our views and our thoughts. Context is key. Local context is key. This isn't about saying there's a one fit for all. There's not. The issue is the issues are the same across the world. How you adapt, how you change, how you make it work for you is in your hands. And it's a journey. There's not an end point on this. This is about become transformational and keep it going and keep it going and keep it going. Refresh, renew, change, engage, embrace. Words which suggest dynamism. At times our sector, certainly in the UK, has been very, very ploddy. There's nothing worse than somebody saying, yeah, I work for a dynamic organisation. Yeah, like that happens. If you believe it, people can see it. If you don't, it's bleeding obvious. So really, really try and present what we are as a sector. We're good at what we do. We believe in what we do. We have an impact. Do it with some enthusiasm. People get that. They can see we will change. The point that was raised earlier by Jodie, transformation from within. It's not just about others have got to change. Everybody's got to change. And if we start, they'll get what we're doing and they'll buy into it. And I've lost my little doofer. Hello? Oops. No? Oh well. So I'll do the conclusions from the top of my head here in that case. The main point here is transformation. It's about organisations embracing that view. We will transform. We know what transformation looks like, and what we're trying to do is to demonstrate that by changing as an organisation, we can start influencing others to change. It's about making sure you have a context that works for you, but it's also recognising that new world is absolutely critical. It is there. It is part of our future. And I absolutely agree. There are a huge number of challenges, but my God, there's a huge number of opportunities as well. And that's the important bit. But it's not opportunities for us. It's the opportunities we can create for people and for communities. That is what really, really captures my imagination. And that's why I do what I do. Because it really works to really drive that and be part of a massive, massive solution for the future. Because frankly, the people we work with deserve it. What's important for me is, in some respects, you can suffer the future. If that's what you want to do, fine. I'd rather shape it. Whether we do or we don't is in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, for doing that and for coming all the way from, was it from London?
Yep.
Just to speak to us. In here is we've made a small donation in your name to Rooftops International, who's our international charitable partner, for the work that they do in Africa. Thank you so much for this. For those of you who want to do more with Paul today, he's going to stick around and help a bit with the conference. And so there's a session on the agenda. There's still room in it if you want to go, where we'll be speaking specifically about the Chartered Institute of Housing. So you can learn more about the professionalism of the sector. So pop by at that and give that some thought. What else are you doing today? Anything?